against my team, the team we're going to be talking about now, the Atlanta Falcons, and their 7-round mock draft. But before we get into that, if you have not already, hit that subscribe button and ring that bell so you can get notified when Ryan and I release new content. Ryan, Atlanta 7-round mock draft. I really enjoyed it. It was fun. Really fun just to that was the first time I've ever done it, and to really honestly see how difficult it was, especially come later. You're like, I really we need this position, but it's like there's no really good players of value until our next pick. But the guy I think it's a stretch there. It'd be great for the next pick, but he might not be there. So going through that and going through this whole draft, it was a lot of fun, especially with the Falcons, who are picking 8 overall. They've already made a huge splash in free agency as we were recording this Monday night, signing David Onyemata from the Saints defensive line, giving Grady Jarrett some help. Also signing Jesse Bates, free safety from. And even with all that information, I still think that they're going to go in the secondary come their 8th pick. And I believe that they're going to go with Devin Witherspoon. We went back and forth, you and I, on if they should go them or Christian Gonzalez, as he was still available. And we ended up going with Devin Witherspoon just because Christian Gonzalez and AJ Terrell are the same height, kind of same player. Both, and we thought Devin Witherspoon would be a good opposite match. A little bit smaller, but also super physical as well. Can maybe help with some matchups.
Yeah, no, I agree. Devin Witherspoon, to me, I think you can move all over. He's a very versatile player. And with Christian Gonzalez, with his size, he's kind of stuck on the outside. You can't really put him in the slot. He can mirror receivers, and he can do just about anything, but so can Devin Witherspoon. We've been pretty consistent that we think Devin Witherspoon is our CB1, and so this is the first corner coming off the board here. And I really like this pick for the Falcons. I think with Jesse Bates, especially being that roamer free safety that can kind of play over the top and not let anything behind him, I really expect the Falcons to get aggressive on defense this season. Bring those corners up close to the line of scrimmage, send blitz packages, and really get after the quarterback. And I know drafting a corner and then talking about how the Falcons are going to be aggressive and blitz the quarterback doesn't necessarily go hand in hand, but I think it's the mentality of defense that they want to instill this upcoming season. Yeah. And I think that starts with solid press man corners, and that is exactly what Devin Witherspoon is.
Well, I think I can speak for all Falcons fans on how just annoyed we are with how it just consistently year over year, how we've had no pass rush. I mean, Vic Beasley, the Super Bowl year, was the last time we had any competent pass rush. And since then, we draft this guy, doesn't pan out. Draft this guy, doesn't pan out. Yeah. So I want them to spend some money in the free agent market. Go get an edge rusher, or go get someone that has proven themselves, and let's go draft a secondary, which we've done successfully drafting quarterback. AJ Terrell's one, Robert Alford's one, and who's the
Richie Grant?
No, well, Richie Grant's from UCF. No, Robert Alford was the second guy. Desmond Trufant as well. I mean, we've had consistent presence of drafting secondary and then panning out, but not in the edge rusher department. So I just let's stick with that. We need another corner as well. Yeah. And as you said, Witherspoon, he is versatile. Let's say he doesn't work out on the outside, you can kick him in the slot. Let's say Richie Grant doesn't work out, you can maybe move him to strong safety because Devin Witherspoon can hit. There's plenty of film on that. So I think he has some versatility specifically for the Falcons. Not saying Christian Gonzalez wouldn't also maybe be a good fit. I just think Witherspoon's better fit for the Falcons. So moving on, though, now to their second pick. They're picking 45th overall. And as we mentioned on other videos, and as you'll see, the system that we used to do the mock draft, they counted the forfeited picks for Miami and then also the Texans as well in the 5th round. So if their numbers are a little off, that's why. But it's their second round pick 45. They went with, and I'm going to butcher his name. That's a common theme of this. Tuli. Okay, you can get it. Go ahead.
Tuli Tuipulatu.
If you subscribe to the channel, and you can see how awful I am with names. It is not on purpose, but I really like him. They have him as a defensive line edge rusher combo. He's definitely on the bigger side, but he can get after the passer for how big he is. I also think he can kick inside as well if they want to do some special schemes, or even maybe if there's
pure passing downs.
Yeah, pure passing downs. Yeah. So, but I really like him. What are your thoughts on that pick?
He's a freak. I mean, I want to say he's 6'3", 290, and just uber athletic, uber strong. He wasn't utilized properly at USC. I remember coming into this season, a lot of people had him as a first-round pick just because of how freakish of an athlete he was. But he didn't necessarily back it up on the field at USC. But again, a lot of that was because of the scheme that he was in. And so I think you get him in this Falcons defense, you let him pin his ears back and really get after the passer. And I think that's a system that he would thrive in, especially next to a guy in Grady Jarrett that's going to demand a lot of attention. And I really like this pick. I think going with Devin Witherspoon and then Tuli Tuipulotu, this Falcons defense is already looking up. And then you couple that with their free agent signings in Jesse Bates and who was the other one?
David Onyemata.
David Onyemata.
Yeah.
This Falcons defense is already much better. So.
Well, and especially too, if you look at Ryan Nielsen, I'm not really sure yet. I think he likes to bring in different defensive schemes, but especially on passing downs right here, just this offensive line setup. Let's say with Grady Jarrett, obviously. Sorry, defensive line. David Onyemata on his right, and then if they're doing a 3-4, then you could still have Tuli on the left side there. Then you have edge rushers on the outside that can blitz or come or back into coverage. So there's a lot of different schemes, I feel like, with the speed and power that just this defensive line already has. So I like the pick. I think it's great. And so let's move on, though, now to their third pick, which is 76 overall. And decided to go receiver here. One trend I noticed as well, and looking back on it, I think there are a lot of the second, third-tier receivers fell to the third round, especially with how our first round went. And I had them going – I think a lot of people saw the Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, like they went to college together route worked. So that's kind of the route I went. And also I think it was a good fit as well for what the Falcons are looking for. They have Drake London on the outside, tall receiver. Kyle Pitts, tall receiver. They just traded for Jonnu Smith for their 7th round pick today as well. So another big guy. And they don't really have any tiny speed slot receivers. So we thought Tyler Scott, the receiver from Cincinnati, who happened to play with Desmond Ridder a lot over these past couple of years before they drafted him. And it's looking like he's going to be their starting cornerback. We think that'd be a good fit. They know each other really well already. I also think he'd just be a good fit for what the Falcons are looking for also.
Yeah, no, I agree. This is a guy, he's a little undersized, but I think he makes up for that with speed and then his actual competitiveness and mentality on the field. You can really see he's not afraid of contact even for a smaller wide receiver. He's very good at the contested catch point. Not the best in this draft, but definitely above average. And speed-wise, he's phenomenal. He's a guy that's gotten very high praise from Ahmad Gardner, the Jets' first-round pick last year, as they used to duel it out in practice when Sauce Gardner was there. And I think if you're getting that type of praise, Sauce Gardner, I understand that he's a former teammate and whatnot, but he doesn't have to go out of his way and say that. And I think when you look at it on film, Tyler Scott has definitely shown how to play leverage and how to use what the corner's doing against him and create separation and stretch the field. So I really like that pick. I think that would open things up underneath for Kyle Pitts and Drake London and then now Jonnu Smith. And yeah, I mean, I just think it's a good solid pick. Might not be the best receiver on the board, but I think it was the best fit.
Yeah, I will say, and that was my thing. I think receiver is a good option here. Maybe they go a different route. I could also see them going offensive line here as well, especially with how this is panned out. We'll have to see what they do in the free agent market because it looks like they're trying to re-sign Caleb McGarry. There's still some questions at the left guard spot, but there are some people that they can also sign. But I also think this might be maybe a decent spot for an offensive line members because this might be towards the end of that second-tier offensive lineman because then after that there's a big drop until the next kind of wave of offensive linemen go off around picks 140 to 150, so to say. But let's move on, though, now to their next pick, which is pick 111. As we've talked about already, pass rush is a theme. And Also, linebacker is a need as well for the Falcons. Very young, still a little inexperienced as well. They did just sign or re-sign Lonzo Carter, their edge rusher, can drop back into coverage a little bit, but get a more pure linebacker, who's also really good at rushing the passer and blitzing. Noah Sewell, linebacker out of Oregon. I think that he'd be a great combo, especially that scenario, what I talked about earlier, if they're doing a 3-4 with outside linebackers. I think he would be a great match if he'd want to blitz, or he can also drop back in coverage. He has to improve a little bit on that as well, but as a rookie linebacker, and also with what the Falcons are looking for, just wanting to get sacks on the board is huge. So I think that he'd be a great pick here.
So Noah Sewell coming into this draft process was up in the top 5 linebackers in the draft, if not higher. And he kind of fell just because of his athletic profile. He's not quite the athlete of some of the other guys, but he also isn't the best in coverage. However, him and Jack Campbell are 1A, 1B in terms of coming downhill, whether in the run game or blitzing. And I think what he brings to the table, I think at pick 111, early round 4 is perfect for him. I think he's going to a situation where they'll put him in situations to win. And I really like that pick. So
I mean, I can honestly see him I think he could be starting day one. I mean, especially with him and Troy Anderson. I have the opportunity to start day one. He definitely will get some playing time.
Yeah, he would get significant snaps.
Yeah.
Day one. So
moving on to now the Falcons pick just a couple picks later at 114. Here they pick Byron Young, defensive tackle from Alabama, not edge rusher from Tennessee. So we have already got that confused once. But here, also addressing the defensive line, I think just adding more depth to go along with the David Onyemata signing. I think it just, once again, maybe just kind of throwing like a defensive line and just trying to figure everything out, because secondary-wise, kind of have everything, a lot of things covered, at least with AJ Terrell, Devin Witherspoon now, Casey Hayward still there, Jesse Bates now back there, and then also Richie Grant is back there as well, especially with some other people that they can re-sign potentially. So I think just keep throwing at the kitchen sink here.
Yeah. No, I agree. Byron Young, Alabama, enough said. So let's move on now. Sticking with the defensive line theme, to me, I like this piece because he's different than everybody else. So Nick Hampton, the edge rusher from Appalachian State, is about 6'2", 235, 238 pounds. He's much more of a speed rusher. I think he would bring a different presence to that defensive line that I don't think that they've really had. He's undersized, so he could get pushed around by some more athletic tackles. However, he's usually going to be on the weak side. And to me, I just think this is a good value pick. I think worst case scenario, he only plays third downs for the Falcons. And then but if he's only playing third downs, that means you guys probably have other edge rushers that are doing better. So I like the pick. In round, we're fringe 161, I think, is round 5. And so when you're in like late round 5, you're really looking for traits that you think you could develop well. And I think Nick Hampton has those traits. So
it's still round 5. I also think too, at minimum, it's good special teams depth for kickoff coverage, kick return coverage as well at minimum, and still with a lot of upside to grow. And so that's why I also think our next pick as well, Daniel Scott, safety from California, kind of also got that similar vibe as well, providing more depth to the secondary. Since it's been a second since they've touched that, but similar as well. I think that could be some just potential special teams coverage as well, and maybe if this guy pans out and providing more depth into the secondary. So I will say, when we did this, Jesse Bates hadn't been signed yet, and so maybe they go a different route here. But pick number 226 is what it is, and so it's good value, I think, at that end with some potential upside.
No, I agree. At that point, you're just looking at best player available. You're not really looking for anybody who can come in and truly contribute day one. So,
and with that being the last pick too, definitely very defensive heavy, which is, I think, kind of really what they
They
need.
need. Yeah.
They need. I mean, could they? They could maybe address the offensive line at one point during that, which I'm sure they would. And so, but just it's funny, and it's funny too when doing this. That's how I kept looking at offensive line, and just when it was like that, I would just rather have this guy. You know, he's just the
Yeah.
best player available mentality, and that's why I think Terry Fontenot, the GM, that's his mentality. You know, it's like best player available.
Yeah.
Instead of like maybe trying to go get some guy for a need who might not actually work out. So they still have after today, which is Monday, March 3rd. I think March 13th. I think they still have like 34 million in cap space. So there's definitely some opportunities, I think, to go get an offensive line member to compete for that for some offensive line spots.
No, yeah, I agree. I still think Caleb McGarry is likely to come back, so that
I
might
think
not.
so too. They did sign Chris Lyncham as well to a
Okay.
5-year deal. I'm pretty sure it made him the most expensive offensive guard. And by most expensive, I mean, sorry, the most profitable offensive guard. That's probably a better way to put it. So
Yeah.
I think they'll probably re-sign Caleb McGarry, not that nearly as much money, but it's really more that left guard spot. I think left guard and center might be an interesting thing to watch for the Falcons.
No, yeah, I agree. But let's go ahead. Let's wrap the Falcons up there. I think with a defensive-heavy draft, this team is probably the favorite to win the division in 2023, and I really like what they have going forward. So
yeah.